Welcome to a new episode of the Cartridge Club, where we discuss our game of the month with members of the Cartridge Club community. Tis is the tradition in the Cartridge Club that for the month of April we play a Zelda game, and this season the Cartridge Club switched it up a little bit and played a Zelda-like game in Okami. Joining me on the show, we have BuriedOnMars. If you've played along, you can always share your own experiences in our community's Discord or across social media by using the hashtag Cartridge Club. Before I start the show, on behalf of the entire Cartridge Club community, I'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon Club backers like Joe Boyce and BuriedOnMars. To our backers and Patreon supporters, thank you. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter for the Cartridge Club, please look in how you can do so at patreon.com/Cartridge Club.
Well, for me, the game and I we got off on a really good start. I was enjoying the opening and all the artwork, the characters. There was a lot of dialogue that many people have brought up, and it's a dialogue heavy game, and it's not, there are no actors performing any of the dialogue. It's all that, I don't know what they call it, some sort of gibberish or something, where you're reading along. So there's a lot of reading to do. I actually started streaming it on my channel on Twitch, and I went in without knowing how much reading there was. And on Twitch you're supposed to read everything for man, it was a lot of work. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how Twitch streamers can do
that.
it.
Yeah. Anyways, in spite of that, I was really enjoying myself. I'd say for about the first 15 hours of the game, I was digging it. I thought it was funny. I wasn't prepared for all the anime, what can I say, breasts in the game, and the sassiness of the characters, and the crudeness of the little guy that's on top of the wolf.
Usun, right?
I'm horrible with names, so you're just gonna have to fill in all the names because I can never remember.
And I apologize in advance to anyone listening because I'm gonna probably butcher a lot of people's names in this too. So
yeah. Sorry, we're two ignorant white people. Yeah. That's what it comes right down to it.
Well, in our defense, because there is no English dialogue in the game, right? It's only English words. We have to read the names and assume that's how it's pronounced, right? It's not telling us directly, like Mario, right? We're not saying Mario, we're saying Mario, because Mario tells us his name is Mario,
right? So like you get Okami, because that's the little voice at the beginning of the game tells you that, but that's it. You're on your own for the rest of it. Anyways, I was enjoying it for the most part, but then I feel like I hit a point, I'd say about 20 hours into the game, where there wasn't enough gameplay there to keep me interested. I kept forcing myself to play it because I knew I was going to be on this podcast, and I didn't want to let Ryan down and just give up after 20 hours. So I forged ahead and I kept playing, and I got about 40 hours in. I got up to one point, maybe it was even more, I can't even remember, but I was on like the second last level or something, and I was in some sort of tower, and I had to do a bunch of platforming to get up to the top, and I fell a couple of times. And I'm horrible at platforming games. I'm a first person shooter guy and all that. And once I hit that wall, I was like, okay, that's it, I'm done with this game. I was so close to the end, but I had enough.
You couldn't just force your way through it?
I tried, and I was like, you know what? No, this is the game's fault. It's not my fault. And I'm sorry, like if you're a huge fan of the game and you're listening to this, and it's just my opinion. My opinion isn't the doesn't define this game. Like you can like it and I can not like it or whatever. But that's as far as I got.
I was say you were fairly close to the end. You were fairly close. Yeah, you only had like one more thing left to go. So
yeah, I know it. I felt it, but I just I can't. I hate platforming to begin with, and there was just so many little things in this game that added up to me not enjoying it that we can get into. But why don't we get into your thoughts first?
Why, thank you, Kevin. So this was essentially my third attempt at playing Okami. And I will say right off the bat, I really enjoyed my experience with Okami. I really, really liked it because, I mean, for years, the comparison between this and Twilight Princess were always like neck and neck with each other. They came out within the same year of each other.
Yeah.
Even though I think Okami came out first a couple months. And I always heard this is a Zelda game to a T. And it is like 100%. There's so many like gameplay things that it feels very much like a Zelda game, even though it's its own thing. And
it's
I go ahead.
Structured. It's structured like a Zelda game.
And I think I've watched Hideki Kamiya, who is the game's director and creator of multiple games like Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe. I think he did Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a YouTube channel currently where he covers like he takes questions from like fans on his YouTube channel, just like general questions about games he's worked on and his general thoughts. And I think at one point someone asked him what was like this, like Okami. He says like, I really just wanted to make a Zelda game. So I did, it's one of those things where he's always really wanted to do it. And yeah, it's very much one. So, and I think I even saw something that it was heavily inspired by multiple Zelda games. I think is one of those weird coincidences too, where the wolf thing was kind of like ultimately disappointing when he saw the reveal for Twilight Princess that there was like a wolf involved that too, that he was like, I was really hoping Zelda would go for more like a regal interpretation of Zelda, because this is what he had his own game with Okami, what he wanted to do kind of thing, built on like the rural area of Japan and whatnot. Regardless, I'm getting sidetracked here. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed the game. I agree, because that opening is like, I would have guessed it was longer the first time I played it, but it's I think like 20 minutes, and it's a lot of dialogue and it's a lot of words. I remember I tried playing it on PS2 once. Then I tried, because I think I got it for maybe it was a free game for PlayStation 3 for a monthly game, because I have it saved on my PS3. And then I ultimately bought the HD version because it was like $20, like on PS4. So I was like, all right, I'm going to play the PS4 version. And I remember the first time I attempted playing this, on top of that very, very, very long opening intro to the game, I remember the celestial brush swipes I felt were kind of difficult.
Yeah.
So much so where I'm like, I felt like it was slowing down the game if you're playing with the controller. Kevin, did you play it with the controller? I think you said you're playing with maybe the PS Move. Right?
Yeah. I started off with the controller, and yeah, I was having problems with the brush. I mean, it would work like maybe 1/3 of the time. So then I switched to the PlayStation Move, and I was able to get it to work about half of the time. I was able to up my percentage a little bit, not as much as I would have liked, but a little bit. Yeah.
I did read something that I guess the people, I don't know, I didn't play the Wii port of the game, but I think some people said the Wii port, the motion controls wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Now, who's to say? I didn't play the motion control Wii version of Twilight Princess either, and I'd imagine that early Wii would probably also suffer from something like this, because I believe this game was one of the last like PS2 games to come out too.
Yeah. I played the Wii version of Twilight Princess, and it didn't have issues like this game.
Gotcha.
Did. Now, Twilight Princess was developed almost from the ground up it was developed for the GameCube, and then Nintendo said, okay, we'll make it a Wii launch title as well. I believe it was a launch title. But I think Nintendo took more time perfecting it with their technology. Whereas the Wii version is a port of the PlayStation 2 version. Because if you played the PlayStation 2 version, you'd think, yeah, motion controls, it's a no-brainer. Because if you don't know, if you haven't played the game and you're listening to this, you got to everything you do in the game. It's kind of built like a Zelda game where you get these powers, and your wolf has these. The wolf has a few names in the game too, so that was confusing to me too. The story was a little confusing to me, which is another problem I have. But I don't follow stories in most video games. I have no idea what the heck's going on for the most part. So that's probably mostly a problem with my problem. But anyways, yeah, you kind of like stop time in order to call up this celestial brush. I guess the idea is that this world you're in is like a painting, and there's some sort of artist that is like that has some sort of ability to enable some powers within you. So you're able to control wind, and you're able to conduct electricity. You're able to make lily pads on the water in order to hop around and stuff like that. And yeah, it would work. Sometimes my circles would work, and I'd get that lily pad in the water. Other times it would say, "Oh no, it's a sun. I'm going to make a sun in the sky right now." I'm like, "What are you doing, Gabe?" Or like, when you're trying to, you'll get to these trees that will give you a little. I guess they're kind of experience points. I think they called it. What was it in the game? Was it kudos or
praise?
Praise. That's right. Yeah, you got praise. So yeah, I would try to like, if you circle one of these cherry blossom trees, you can get them to blossom, and it would give you like a 1 praise point. But then yeah, sometimes it wouldn't work. Sometimes it would think that it would make a sun in the sky or something like that, which you could use to change time. You get the power to make a sun in the sky, to make it daytime. You get the power to make a moon in the sky, to make it the evening. So you got like, that time shifting in the game. So yeah, it would work about half the time for me. And it was a frustrating part of the game.
I will say it was frustrating at first with the controller. Maybe about 10 hours in, I think I started getting comfortable with it. And I think it was more along the line of when the game starts introducing more and more abilities that like they encourage you to do, is when I started to get more comfortable with it. I don't remember when, and maybe it was in the first 5 minutes of the game. I just maybe completely missed it. But when they eventually kind of encourage you to like, hey, slash, like you'll get an extra bonus attack if you hit the brush timer right before you, right as you kill a boss, because it'll start like slowly hovering in the air before it like dies and becomes like a pot of flowers on the ground and drops the stuff. Or if you slash it, you get like a little bit of a bonus.
Right.
So I started, I'm trying to think of, there's a game, maybe it even was like Cyberpunk recently that I played that, or maybe it's even like Fallout, where it's like if you just like pause and then you can almost like think how you're gonna like
like your weapon wheel will come up in like Doom or something like that.
Yeah, and like it gives you like almost like a time just to like even though you're not taking long, it kind of like it slowed down the game for me in the fact that like I could plan my attacks more, and I started getting more comfortable then doing the drawings. Now that's not to say that everything was perfect. Like sometime I'd be trying to do a bomb and it didn't like my circle enough to do a bomb, right? Or but for the most part, I got pretty dang comfortable with it. And I started to appreciate the game. I will say too, it feels like for a PS2 game, it feels, and I'm also saying this playing that I said I played the PS4 version of the game, right? But as a PS2 game, it feels more modern in some aspects than let's just say this month's game of the month, which is Force Awakens, which feels to me very dated.
Okay.
What's that? Force Unleashed. I'm sorry.
Force Unleashed. Yeah.
Force Unleashed.
Which version of Force Unleashed? Because
I'm playing the PS3 version.
Okay.
So not saying it plays bad, but it feels dated, if that makes sense. This one, and again, I'm playing the PS4 version of a PS2 game. doesn't feel as dated.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the way, like I said, I got more comfortable with the brush aspect, the celestial brush. And Kevin, I was interpreting the game as that brush was part of Isun's, who's essentially the Navi character, right? He's this little.
Oh, right, yeah.
He's this little tiny. I at first I didn't know if he was a bug, because he's got like a little, like, it looks like a little bit of a ladybug for a hat,
Yeah.
Like I didn't real. I was trying to figure out what this person was until, like, there's a level later in the game where you shrink, right, and then you see, it's just like that's just his race, is they're very, very short,
right,
tiny, like size of a bug, person. And from filling out the outline and doing the research for this game, I guess there is like part of some Japanese lore and storytelling that there is, which essentially this game is kind of like borrowing from. There's borrowing a lot of elements from this game, and the story, in my interpretation, is like it's the creation of Japan, like how the gods are and everything like that. That's essentially what this game is. It's like the building and like the creation of Japan. There is a character that has a much longer name, but it starts off with Isun, that he's based off of. That he's a very, very tiny person, and I think he kills about, like, I don't know, some villain in the game. But he's a traveling artist, right? That's essentially was. So I thought it was kind of like the interpretation that he was the one doing the brushing.
You're right. No, you're 100% right, because it's coming back to me. There's a couple of times in the game where you're separated from him and you can't do any of your celestial powers when you're separated from him. I think in that level, when you're in his hometown and you're walking around trying to, that level was a little difficult for me to get through. Yeah, a lot of platforming in that one.
The only thing about it though is, so this will be a little bit of a spoiler for you, for Kevin, at the end of the game. So like,
no, it's okay. I don't think I'll ever see it, so you can go ahead and spoil it.
so I was assuming this, but then I kind of got my head like, was he kind of thing? So the final boss of the game is essentially like the god of darkness. Is like a demon who's trying to whatever. The sun is blocked out, and right before you go to fight him, so you're with that Waka character, the guy with the flute, who kind of like teases you along the way. I think he speaks French because he'll say like "Mosheri,"
right?
And, right? Like you're going on a boat because essentially I think the sun is blocked out. So you're going to, Waka's going to take you to the final thing, and Isun chickens out. He's like, hey, you two are gods and whatnot. I'm just a being. I can't do this. I'm not meant to be there. This is going to be a celestial battle. Good luck. See you later, Amaterasu, right? I'm going to say Amy for the majority of this show because that's what Isun calls her for short.
Right, yeah.
So for the majority of the show, I will refer to Amaterasu as Amy. Okay. He basically says, see you later. It was a great journey, but this is where I end. I am not going to be with you because I'm not a god. And he just leaves her, right? So that final battle, you're just there. So that's why I kind of like, and you still have your celestial brush moments for it, but at that point you're all like, you have all your abilities back. The whole original story, and so I guess we'll backtrack to the story part of this game too. The whole story, the story starts off with this dragon, right? Because I think this was one of like your complaints, maybe, Kevin, before too.
It wasn't a complaint. It wasn't a complaint. It was some people in the Discord were like, I don't know if I want to commit so many hours to this 50-hour game. And I felt story wise that about 15 hours into the game, there's a beat in the story where you could kind of like put a period there. If that's like, I felt really like when I reached that point, I felt like I accomplished it. I kind of did what the game set out to do, which was that there was this 8-headed dragon.
Yep.
That was looming over the town, and you needed to go and defeat a dragon that your ancestor had defeated in the past. And once that was done, the town was free, and I felt like, hey, I'm done. If honestly, if it was a 15-hour game like that and that was the whole thing, I would have been okay with that. I would have felt like I got my. I think I spent $8 on the game back in the day, and when I bought it on the PS3. So, I did want to mention too that I don't have a PlayStation 3 controller. I have a dongle to. I know. I have a couple of dongles, but this one dongle I have, it allows me to use my PlayStation 4 controller on the PS3, which a lot of people assume you can just naturally use a PS4 controller on a PS3, which you kind of can do in some games, but not every game. So I don't know if that is part of the issues that I was having with the controls. Might have been, I don't know. But even switching over to the PlayStation 3, it didn't really. And here's the other thing with the PlayStation 3 Move, with the Move, I never really realized this until I played it with this game. But on the Wii, the cross hairs, right? Like your up, down, left, right. That is with the on the Wiimote itself, right? With the PlayStation Move, that crosshair is on either the nav controller, or if you're using a PlayStation 3 controller in your left hand, it's on there. So what that means is that you're controlling the character with your analog stick. Just think of like the nunchuck, right? Like imagine it, because I imagine more people have used the Wii. So you're moving the character around with the nunchuck. Now imagine the crosshair is also on the nunchuck, and that controls your camera. So I was constantly battling with the camera in this game as well, which felt like, you were saying this felt like a modern game. This felt like very PlayStation 2-ish.
Okay.
You know how, like, I feel like in 3D games, by the time we got to the 360 and PlayStation 3 era, that's where the camera, at least after the first or second year, by the third year we got into that console, that's where the camera really, developers really got a hold of where the camera should be, and for the most part, in most games. This felt like, like struggling with a camera like that, this felt like old school, early 2000s. Yeah, the graphics look much better than they do on the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64, but I'm still battling with that dang camera. One other thing I wanted to mention too, before we move on, you were like, the celestial brush comes in, it pauses the game, and it gives you some time to do the things. Yes, awesome. I agree with that. But then you get to some parts in the game where you're relying on that brush to be your QuickTime event. And that is where, like, I spent a good 15 minutes trying to take down that dragon both times, because I did take down the dragon both times, because you in the story, you're kind of like Penny and the little guy. Your little guy is Brain. You're Penny and Brain, and there's this other character who kind of takes all the credit for everything you do in the game, but you don't really care because he's like the town's hero. That's the Inspector Gadget of the game.
Yep.
So Inspector Gadget goes around and starts chopping off the heads of the dragon, but it's actually you doing it, and you have to execute that slash attack within a certain amount of time. Like it's all time based. It's a quick time event. And I would just like sit there and I would just start slashing. I don't know how many times I got up to 7 times, and that 8th time it wouldn't register.
No, I feel you. That happened to me because you have to fight the dragon twice in the game.
Yeah.
And I agree, because so the main reason why is because it'd be like almost all the attacks for that would be like left to right, left to right, left to right, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe the final one be right to left, upwards. And I'm
diagonal,
like, and you do it, and I'm like, I guess they didn't like the angle that I drew it.
Yeah.
And then I have to do again. Now, granted, I didn't get like attacked or lost like a heart. You just got to do it again, right?
Right.
You just got to do it again. So
and you got to sit through the little intro where he's like, "Oh, let's fight," and it's like, "Come on, just get to it."
It would say like, "Come on, dog," or whatever. Let's do it again. I relate, because there's a couple times I had more difficulty with the controlling the wind part. Not so much doing left to like just the left to wind, left to right wind. There's like a wind that you can do that if you want the wind to blow forward in front of you. I had the hardest time out of all probably the celestial brush paintings doing that. And there's a couple of mini puzzles like you have to drop like an ice ball into like an area or something like that, where I'm doing it and then all of a sudden interpret it that I wanted to blow the ball right to left or something. And I'm like, and I have to do it over again. That was the more frustrating part out of all of them.
That might have been the advantage for me, because throughout the entire game, I was constantly having to move that camera around.
Yeah.
So anytime I got to those parts, I was kind of used to lining up the camera to where the ball needed to go before I executed a wind move. So
yeah, maybe. Honestly, I didn't think I had problem at all with the camera. I just had more problems with like the drawings or something. So again, it could maybe be the version I'm playing that they fixed it or whatnot. But for the most part, I really didn't have too much complaints about that. Maybe more along this line that the game can be obtuse at times. Like it doesn't tell you. If it did, maybe I just didn't read it.
Yeah.
Like as an example, like I knew there's a little bit of like light glowing on the lake ground, right? Yeah. And eventually, like I think you can figure out you have to dig. Maybe you get the ability to dig, and a clover pops out, right? I didn't put two and two together that I should also then do the bloom attack on the clover to get extra praise out of it until probably 20 hours in the game, where I think I got stuck on a puzzle. So, and most of the time the puzzles weren't too difficult, but I'm also at a point in my life where I'm like, if I can't solve the puzzle within 5 to 10 minutes, I'm opening up YouTube. Just show me what I need to do. I'm just at that point in life, especially with like a 50-hour game, right? If this is a part of my life when I didn't have many games, maybe I'd be willing to hammer it through. At this point in time, you got 5-10 minutes on me, and then I'm looking you up. Right. And then I saw the guy did that. I'm like, oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do to do stuff. But there's a few other things like that where I feel like the game doesn't so much tell you. And
like there was some backtracking moments in the game where like I'm in an area and I'm like, I'm looking everywhere what to do next. I don't know where to go.
Yep.
So eventually it's like, okay, I'm just gonna leave this area and maybe come back to it or something, maybe do some side quests. And then as soon as I start leaving the area, that's where the cutscene cuts in and gives you some direction. And I'm like, oh well, why couldn't you let me know that in the first place?
Yeah, that's another reason why, like, I think I probably could have hammered this game out faster if I knew where I was going.
Yeah.
And I know, like, you could say you can go to the map and they show you a little red circle, but I would be in that general area still looking where I need to go. And I'm like, or how do I even get back to this little area?
Yes. Yeah.
Not saying it's like, I'll give this one praise. Like, I think its world, if we're going to compare it to Twilight Princess, I think its world lays out a little bit better than Twilight Princess. Okay. Where like I feel like I didn't get lost so much. Like I think one of my biggest complaints about Twilight Princess, I find Hyrule to be kind of boring compared to like other Zelda games, right? And I'm not knocking Twilight Princess, but if I have to give any like thing I don't care for Twilight Princess, that's one of them. Is I find Hyrule to be kind of boring. This one I didn't find so much. I felt like it was a little bit smaller of a world, and to me, I guess that works. But yeah,
it's more compacted. They got more going on in it. Like you're that was one of my favorite parts of the game, actually, was when a new area would open up and then you go find those gates where you can fight some dudes and that you get praise for that. You can go find clovers, places to dig. You'd stumble on some characters, maybe a group of animals or whatever. That was my favorite part of the game. And it was like, it never felt like as if there was nothing in those areas. It felt like there was a lot to discover.
Yeah, especially if you would like, because you would go to these new areas, right? And you would see like what looks like a floating banner, right? And those were kind of like, you'd walk into it and it would trigger a fight, right? Those little villains. And then there'd be like areas where there's like a house with like smoke coming out of it, where if you walk into it, it'd be like a bigger fight. But upon beating that fight, you get like like you get more praise on top of that, but I think it would kind of open up that land a little bit more. You eventually always had to, when you walk into an area, find like wherever the tree was, right? There was always be like a dead tree.
Yeah.
And then that essentially would clear like a lot of the corruption or demon side of that area out of that area, right?
Right.
I don't know. I really did like that aspect of it. I didn't realize also until like later on in the game that you can just, if you didn't want to fight that demon, you could just do a celestial brush swipe and just cut it, so
you could escape, if you wanted to. Yeah.
So the game has its way like that.
That's probably because you don't play too many RPGs. That's like a trope in many turn-based RPGs that you can always escape. So that might be why.
Probably. But I guess it is an action RPG, right?
Oh yeah.
I guess
it's just like a Zelda game.
Mm-hmm. Well, unlike a Zelda game though, I would say it didn't have, the weapon, it has its own like three. I guess I was gonna ask you here, how did you, because you can do a main attack and like a sub attack, right? For weapons.
Yeah.
How did you have a general way that you loaded your character up, your aiming with?
The best sword and mash that attack button. That was it. I just mashed the attack. There were some characters where you needed to use the celestial brush to slash them in order to knock their defense down. And sometimes the shield came in handy against some boss fights. But for the most part, for the trash mobs, for lack of a better term, in the game, I would just mash that attack button. Sometimes jump, but for the most part, just go up to them. And I found it easy to get to upgrade the weapons. Money was like the cash, whatever the currency is in the game, came to you quickly. So as long as you knew what you were buying at the shops, like to upgrade your weapon and all that, your weapons seem to be a little overpowered for the enemies in the area that you were in.
Yeah, I didn't even. Again, another thing that went past me probably too long was there's an item called gold dust that can make your weapon stronger.
Yeah.
It isn't quite so much like, I guess that's I needed it's a little bit more visualization to me, because it doesn't, I don't think your game, your weapons reflect that it's got the game dust on it, right? You can only do it one time per weapon. I can't say as an example, in a Zelda game, right?
Yeah.
Once you get that, you can do that one heart upgrade where it would show you have a white line around your heart that gives you a little bit stronger protection on your heart.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any indication that your weapon was stronger. If it did, I just didn't see it. It went over my head.
So if you bought a physical version of this game on the PS2 or on the Wii or whatever, you have an extensive, and I have it right here for the people who are just listening. I have the Wii version right here. You have an extensive colored manual that tells you all that stuff, what the gold dust does and all that, what the characters are and all that. So I think the game is expecting you to go a little old school and read the manual before you start plowing into it. And I did, I guess I did my homework before playing the game, which I normally don't. But it tells you what the stuff does in here. So
I'm pretty confident the PS4 version doesn't have a manual in it. So
no, well, it might have come with a manual in the menus or something like that. But
nobody goes through and reads
not anymore.
Not
this is 2006, right? And this is an old school game. These guys wanted to make a Zelda game, so they wanted you to have that Zelda like experience. So in defense of the game that I didn't really care for, I think that's where you're supposed to find out all that stuff. It doesn't tell you in game, and I think we've become conditioned that modern games tell you what all the stuff does. They walk you through all that stuff. So
that's right, true, yeah. Because you're right about this. Because
that's why I feel the game is dated. Like the Force Unleashed, I had a blast playing that. I played both versions. I played the Wii and I played it on the PC, but I guess what's it called? The I don't know, the main version of the game or whatever, and the mothership version of the game. I don't know what the heck you'd call it, but I had a blast through that. And I felt that game aged better than this game. This game is, if you're into older games, it will scratch that that niche for you. Scratch that itch.
But yeah, it's the if I was gonna say one part that was, if you're gonna say the platforming part that was difficult, the only one I found to be quite difficult is when you have to trigger the win to jump on. There's some banners so you can platform across.
Oh yeah.
That part was wasn't the easiest platforming for me in the game.
Well,
otherwise,
at least with those, you would fall down a level and then you can just get right back up. If I could get the water thing to work, so I could get up to the next level. But that end part where I got it, you fell down numerous levels. I was back at and then climbing up the walls and all that too. Oh my goodness.
The catwalk, that's another celestial ability.
Yeah, I didn't have too much fun with that stuff.
Sure. I found out too, like with the second analog stick, you can also kind of pull back and look up the camera so you can draw the cat painting up, drawing. More.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to kind of backtrack a little bit for the story part here, because you're talking about there being multiple wolves, and from my understanding, like for how the story goes,
you probably understand it better than I do. So
so there is, so the story generally starts off with that for multiple years there was a dragon that would 7-headed or 8-headed dragon that would come to this village and would want someone to be sacrificed. A woman of the village should be sacrificed for his dinner, and eventually got to the point where it came to the woman that was selected was, I think the character's name was Nagi. It was his girl, and he decided, I'm not sacrificing my partner to this dragon. So he went with Amy's, what do you call it, ancestral like relative, right?
Yep.
And they fought the dragon. They killed the dragon, and in doing so, Amy's ancestor passed away in the fight, and the people of that village, like, they made a tomb or a shrine in honor of what the dog sacrificed or the wolf sacrificed for it.
Yeah.
Come to be like 100 years later, our Inspector Gadget character, Susano, I think it is.
Yeah.
He's the relative of the person who fought the dragon 100 years prior.
Right.
He pulled out the sword that was containing the dragon's body and whatnot out of the village, essentially reopening, bringing back the dragon. And the god of that village, she summoned Amaterasu, who's the sun god, to enshrine the body of that wolf. Right. That was the protector. So essentially the wolf was reincarnated, but with the power of the sun. I don't know if the original wolf had that ability, was the sun god or whatnot, but essentially it brought the wolf back to life to kind of protect that village. Eventually, when the wood sprite god, who brings back the wolf, when she's giving her speech to the wolf, is when we're introduced to Isun, who's the little small sprite type character, who's essentially our Navi, our guide, who's also a little bit of a pervert, who we're introduced to him because he's jiggling around in her boobs, right? Like she's like, what's going on here? And he falls out of her boobs.
Yeah. And it's a Cloverleaf game. This is what you're going to get.
Yep. Yeah. It's, it's a little bit, Hideki Kamiya, that's definitely, sex jokes are definitely always kind of a part of his game. And this one's no different. So I really enjoyed Isun as a character. I mean, I found him pretty funny.
I did too. I liked the whole play on, like, basically Navi is seen by the majority of people, and you might love Navi, and that's cool, but a lot of people found that character annoying in Ocarina of Time, and this was them having fun with that character, and yeah, like they made him, like, internet culture and all that, where it was like negative towards him, very sarcastic towards Navi, right? And so to make that character in the game itself almost like an internet troll in and of itself was a kind of a flip of the script, and I did enjoy that part of the game. I did like the time travel stuff too. I thought that was clever, neat, and again another play on Ocarina of Time. So yeah, I did enjoy all that stuff. That stuff was cool.
I mean, I thought it was pretty funny when they introduced like Princess Ryo, who
Yeah.
is essentially the priestess for the queen. She's very, very top heavy, right?
Yes.
Of course, the first reaction from like Isun is like, "Holy, this busty baby!" You know, busty baby keeps calling her throughout the whole game,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I think the whole like reaction with Amy and him meeting for the first time was like their mouths are both wide open and everything like that, right? So
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
got its humor, yeah.
you gotta think about who the game was marketed to at the time as well. Like this was marketed as like imagine you were 10 years old when Ocarina of Time came out and you're playing that game. And now this game, so Ocarina of Time came out what, 97,
Let's say
98?
7 sounds right. 97.
Okay, so like this is like we're in 2006 now. This is like your 18-year-old, 19-year-old boys, right? That's and so the humor is like, you know, they kind of catered it towards that age.
Well, it's also, you know, it's also rated teen for teen, so it's
it's not a kid's game. No. It's not. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But
it's not too bad. There's just some boob jokes, and you know,
it's just crude, crass humor. It's cartoony. It's not meant to be like. There's nobody there that's getting objectified. It's just cartoons. So
yep.
If you want to get offended by it, you can go right ahead. I won't stop you, but I was okay with it.
I almost wonder if it's probably just for that, but like, so the game's art style too, it has a cell shaded art style to it, but when a new villain is introduced, you get kind of like a Japanese like drawing of the things, and you got like some of the, like, I really liked some of the what did you call them, the like the lesser essentially villains, the one you fight like multiple times in the field,
trash mobs.
Yeah, the trash mobs, right? Like some of the trash mobs designs are pretty interesting in this game. Like there's one that's like a flying mask that's got like a big nose and like wings and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's some like, there's those like mirrors that kind of like that have like a nose or an eye or a lips or something like that.
I thought they were like big wagon wheels because they spun around like a wagon wheel or something. That's the way I saw it.
And if you fought like multiple ones, sometimes you can use by just dragging the brush between them, like you can drag their abilities to the other side. So if you're fighting like a fire one, you could drag the fire to the ice and do the ice to the fire or something like that.
I didn't even think to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Lightning to the whatever, like lightning to the water one. So they do all this like neat stuff in there too. And well, like I said, the game has a lot of abilities to the game where I think it stands out on its own. And I don't know, I guess I'm just repeating myself. I really liked it for what it does. And back to the gameplay part of it, I think that really adds my like why I like it for more much. I got more comfortable using the brush. The game kind of opened up more to me. If that makes any sense. And I don't think it's overly too difficult. I know I wasn't the only one. I know Captain Algebra also beat the game without dying, right? So the game gives you a lot of chances too. Like I didn't use I forgot what they're called. There's some kind of bones that essentially will add life back onto you. I think I only had to really use it for that final fight. There's a couple times I got close to dying. One of them being like there's like a bird that has an umbrella that I couldn't figure out that you had to do the wind swipe twice on.
Yep.
Because it uses its umbrella as like a shield. Then if you use the wind, it pulls the umbrella inside out, and then you can finally attack it.
Yeah, I did discover that one on my own. I patted myself on the back. I didn't have to look that up. I was like, I wonder if some wind would like blow the umbrella, and hey, it worked. I will disagree with you though a little bit on the gameplay because I did find like it was okay, but I did find it got a little bit stale after a while. More so the different types of celestial powers that you get. Like you got to compare like Zelda. It's the contemporary of this game, so I'm going to hold it to that standard.
Yeah, the gold standard, right? Let's just say it's the gold
standard.
Well,
it's trying to be a Zelda-like game, and Zelda games that had come out in 2006, like Twilight Princess. I think it's a fair game to compare it to that game. And what I enjoy about a Zelda game is those different powers that you do get. The different weapons, the different, like the boomerang. I feel in a Zelda game kind of opens up a whole different way that you can play the game. Your hook shots, and even getting bombs and bow and arrow and stuff like that. Like, it just adds a whole different dimension to a Zelda game while you're playing it. Not only just are areas locked out from you, but you can fight enemies a different way. Whereas I found that there was elements of that in this, where you do have like a bomb or whatever. I couldn't rely on any of it because it wasn't very effective. Like, it wouldn't work every single time. But then the powers themselves, it was like, okay, you could draw a line and connect fire to ice and get through that. And now you can connect electricity to water. And now you can connect, what's the other one? Fire, water, or water and electricity. Fire, water, and electricity. It was like, it felt like the same. I was unlocking the same thing, over and over again. All I could just do, and all I could do is just connect them. I don't know. I kind of got a little tired of that. I was hoping for a little bit more.
I mean, I could see there's parts, I think, in the game that they take it's at a point where you can get some items in the game. I think it's too late. In the fact that, like, so one of the items in the game, and this is one point I want to point out, is so I should say there is an ability, right? There's like a tablet you can purchase with dragon fangs, right? And I never bought it. Because at the point in the game, I wasn't going to be on water anymore. But there's an ability that, like, if you buy it, I think it's like 100 dragon fangs, right?
Yeah.
That lets you walk on water. So you don't have to worry about drawing lily pads anymore. You have the ability, you can just walk right on the water. You don't have to worry about drowning anymore.
Right.
But at that point in the game,
I
was on the final boss. So I'm like, am I just going to go buy it just to say I have it?
Yeah.
Like, and that's also on me. But that's also because the character you purchased it from, like, it's closer towards the end of the game, right? It's already like, I'm like, okay, there's 2 more temples left. Do I really just want to farm dragon things when actually I think I purchased something else from him that was more useful? Where if I would have had that earlier, say like when I was going to the sunken ship dungeon, that would probably be more useful. Like, even leaving, when you leave that sunken ship, the water dragon's coming for you. Where, like, I could have, like, escaped. I didn't get the achievement. There's an achievement for like, getting back to shore by not getting eaten by the dragon. I, on the other hand, was just taking too much of my time doing that stuff. Where if I would have had the ability, I know I would have cleared it with ease, right?
Right.
I know there's also an ability, because when researching this here, if you go and do all the stray beads that are hidden all over the land here, which I didn't do, if you get all of them, essentially there's an ability that makes you invincible the whole game. Like, it gives you unlimited magic, it gives you unlimited or unlimited ink ribbon, that's what I should say, and I think unlimited life. It's got like the stray bead, I think, attack. I don't know, but if you it's only triggered by if you get all, I want to say it's 500 stray beads, but I didn't do it, but because honestly, you don't need to do it. Maybe if you do it on New Game Plus, to be a little bit more because of the difficulties ramped up here.
Yeah.
But so yeah, there's things in the game that, like, oh sure, but the game's already easy enough to begin with. So I guess do you really need this stuff? But I guess it's there. So right.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the vibe that they were going for is that, okay, again, going to compare it to Zelda. All right, you're right at Ganon's door. You can go and fight him, or you can go around and explore the maps and get all the pieces of heart that you
can go fishing. You can go fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, the fishing mini game in this was half frustrating as well. I didn't understand what the heck was going on.
It took a minute to me to figure out that I actually had to draw a line from the fishing rod to the fish.
Yeah.
So I agree with you a little bit on that one. And then kind of you got to keep the smiley face. You remember when you're reeling it back in, you have to kind of keep it at the smiley face range.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if, like, can I push it a little bit? And because there was some, I think I caught a marlin, which was really tough. and I was like, can I push it a little bit and get, because in some games you can just like, losing some of your energy is part of it. But I wasn't sure like how long the fight was going. I wasn't sure how well I was doing with the Marlin. Like it took me a while to figure out that I was actually pulling the fish in closer, which I know it sounds stupid because it's a fishing game. Of course you're pushed, but I don't know, just the way the camera was behind the character, it didn't really like give me an indication that it was coming in closer. That was obvious to me. Anyways, I found the fishing to be it wasn't like a Zelda game where I wanted to fish. It was like, okay, I have to fish right now.
So I know because the sequel was announced at it was the Video Game Awards 2 years ago. They announced that Okami's getting a sequel, official sequel. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a reveal trailer for it, and Hideki Kamiya is coming back to Capcom to work for it.
Wow.
So the whole thing behind that was that he got frustrated with the people at Platinum Studios, and he left to go form another studio on his own. So he's left to go and the funny thing about it then is, now I'm forgetting his name, Itsuno, who essentially took over Devil May Cry for Capcom after Kamiya left.
Right.
Who ran that for like 3 games. So he did 3, 4, and 5. He just left Capcom, and I think a couple other people just left at Capcom. But the heads up of Capcom now, I think, was one of Hideki Kamiya's like friends asked him. He's like, "Hey, would you come back to Capcom?" He's like, "No, I'm doing my own thing. I'm happy. I want to do my own thing. I don't want to. I want to work on new IPs." And he's like, "I'll let you do Okami too." And he's like, "All right, I'm coming back." So
wow,
because I guess he said it's a game he's known. He's always wanted to make a sequel to it because he felt like he didn't wrap it up tightly, and he's always had an idea for a second Okami, and he just never had the ability to do it because shortly after this, I think Clover Studios closed up and then eventually became Platinum. Platinum Studios, because they went and did their own thing. I guess the point I was getting at here is, if you were to play Okami 2, would you think like there's some modernization, like more Zelda things? Like, would you prefer it, I guess, if they had things like you don't have to draw it, like you can, you know what I'm saying? Like you can short issue like, oh, this is the bomb, this is the boomerang, where you just press the button and it triggers it, or
yep, absolutely, 100%. I mean, buttons are fine, they work. That's why most games use them. So just use buttons. I mean, you can have it you gotta assign different ones to different buttons or whatever. You got to go in and with a little bit of strategy or whatever. But I just want to, when it's time to execute the thing, whatever it is I need to do, it executes it. And yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I get it. That's probably why the game is attractive to a lot of people, is that it's different. It's not like every other game where you just press a button. You have to do something a little different. But for me, I just found it very frustrating that it would not do what I needed it to do at the time I needed it to do it.
Sure. When it comes to my expectations, I think for this game too, where I've played a lot of these action games from Hideki Kamiya, like your Devil May Cries, your Beautiful Joes, and whatnot, and I was expecting something more along the line of a Platinum-esque action style kind of game for this one, and it isn't like that. It is closer to a Zelda. I know, and I knew it was a Zelda game, but I was expecting maybe this would be a Zelda like Devil May Cry thing right there. And there's the only time I really kind of felt like that is when I equipped the rosaries, where it give you like a whip and everything like that, because your combos are significantly bigger. Now the rosary is probably your least powerful attack, right? But you get the bigger combos with it. And eventually when I got to like the more powerful swords towards the end of the game, I stuck with those more, and I kept the rosary as my sub weapon, which kind of gave it like a shooting attack. I almost never used the shield. I think as soon as I had like a sword and a rosary, those were my 1 and 2.
Okay.
I didn't care for keeping the sword as the sub weapon too. I know it was more of like a stab attack, but I felt like it just wasn't as fun for me to play. Like, and the mirrors essentially like were like a shield attack. At this point though, it wasn't like, if it would have required maybe like a parry system, or if it gave you like, and keep in mind this was probably born before along the line of like when games started incorporating parry and everything, right?
Right. Yeah.
Where if it gave me as like a sub weapon where I could parry stuff where it would open them up, great. So maybe if they were going to introduce something like that for Okami too, that'd be kind of cool because I almost never used the shield ever as a weapon. I don't know if you ever felt the same way for your weapon attacks or send your sub weapons.
Yeah, I actually you brought back a memory. I actually for the later part of the game, I actually doubled up on the swords because I found that increased my attack. Like I could attack even quicker with the two swords. And then the beads, I only really used them for some bosses because they came in handy on some bosses because they could stun as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only time I really used them, except for at the beginning of the game when I didn't know the difference between the beads and the swords. Where I guess I skipped that part in the manual, but
did you visit the sensei, the Onigiri sensei?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and got some moves and what else he did have some handy things that's where I spent most of my cash on. I would go in there and level up some things.
Yeah, he essentially opens up your combo system a little bit too. Like you can get multiple as opposed to like 3 slashes, you can do 4 to 5 slashes then too with your sword attacks.
Yeah.
One of the first big purchases I made in the game though was I don't know if you purchased it, was Golden Fury. So it's essentially for people who don't know, and I didn't have enough to buy Brown Rage at the end of the game, but Golden Fury is essentially an attack where you as Amy, you cock your leg and you pee on the people you fight in the game, and they drop a dragon fang, right? So like if you want to farm your dragon fangs to purchase things like the ability to walk on water, like that's ideal way. I know Brown Rage is you take an exploding poop.
I didn't get that far.
Because that one was like I think 2 million yen or something like that to do it. Yeah. So like that was the most expensive I think purchase in the game was to buy that one, and I was saving up for it. But again, I got to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm already at like the final boss. Do I do I not? And I'm like, nah. I already put like 40 something hours into this game. Let's just beat the game kind of thing. Yep. So I figured I was gonna need farm dragon fangs on the final boss anyways. But I mean, again, part of the humor that I mean, and it's the game also. Let's come back to the humor just for a little bit here too, because even I know we've joked about the boob humor a little bit in it though too, but Amy has, even though she's a wolf, she has her dog tendencies. Like there could be this part where they're giving off all these big like exposition, right, where they're telling like more of the story. Yeah, and they cut back to Amy, and she's just like sleeping on the ground with her head in her tail, right? You know, like not paying attention because she's a dog, right? It's little humors like that, right? But yeah, why wouldn't a dog, pees everywhere? It poops everywhere. So incorporating that as like an attack, I thought that was kind of funny.
It was funny, yeah. It was. Like I said, like this, the humor in this game is aimed at the 9-year-old who played Ocarina of Time in 1997 or 1998. It's now got a PlayStation 2 in 2006, and I mean, I think they nailed it.
Yeah, I think we covered almost everything except the music. Do you have anything to say for music? Or
it was fine. I didn't really. For most video game music, I kind of get crap for this all the time. It doesn't really stand out to me one way or the other. I always turn the music down a little bit because I prefer hearing the sound effects and the characters talking. And I find in a lot of games the music overdoes it. I think I did turn it down a little bit for this, but it was serviceable. It didn't really stand out to me. It wasn't bad. Sure. If it was bad, that would have definitely stood out to me. So
I think there's a couple tracks that stand out to me. Like I think like besides the opening title track, I think there's the field song. I think it's what it is. It's or it's called Reset or something like that. But you hear when you're running along the fields. Mm-hmm. That one I really, really enjoy. And I mean, maybe because I do it a lot in the game for like the battles, is probably like the battle song, because it just ends with like, I mean, I don't know what percussion it is. Maybe it's some kind of like flute or something like that, but it ends with like a voice at the end of the battle where it's like, when you wrap up the fight, right?
Or orchestral, is that, or I don't know, operatic, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, before I even forget here too, I want to ask you if there were any like sub characters, like smaller characters that kind of stood out for you.
Yeah, I like the, oh geez, I'd say I'm terrible with the names, but who's the old guy at the, there was two old guys in the game, right? There was one in current time and then one in the past, and I found those guys to be funny. Oh, geez, what the heck was his name?
Are you referring to Mr. Bamboo?
Yeah, was it Mr. Bamboo? They had funny names like that. Yeah, there was like Mr. Bamboo, and the guy in the past had some other name.
And Mr. Bamboo has that little sub story too. I don't know if you got to it with that girl who was imprisoned or something like that by like the king or something like that. Because that's the guy you have to go inside. That's right. So that's the guy that you get the ability to buy the water from, because you go inside his body. Remember, he's like sick or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
And he imprisoned that girl. But then once you release her, if you go back to like Mr. Bamboo, there's that whole story that I think he raised her as like his daughter, even though she's not from, I think, the planet, because she eventually goes into a spaceship that goes in the outer space.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
She's
like a moon person or something like that. Is what it is.
Yeah.
But essentially he, like that was like his daughter that he raised her up and whatnot. So I agree. If you're referring to Mr. Bamboo, I agree. I really like that little side story for it.
Yeah, that was cool. So that was cool. And geez, who else was there? Well, the Inspector Gadget guy, that was I don't know if that was part of the main story or not. And the French guy following you around and all that. I mean, yeah, those are, I had no problem with any of the characters. I thought they were fun. It was all well done. My problems, I think, were just more with like the gameplay stuff.
Sure.
Like, I just didn't feel like there was enough gameplay there to keep it, like, it's a huge game, so like a big time commitment.
So maybe with the 20 years, we're not at 30 years yet.
Not quite.
With the sequel, basically, they can maybe modernize it just a little bit. And I think ultimately that's what this game just needs, because I think for the most part, this game is great. Just like, if they can modernize it a little bit more. And I should say this. We talked about this before, because Kevin, you mentioned it. The storytelling, like after 1/3 of the game, it feels like that was your final big boss until the very end of the game, right? We talked about when you beat Inoki, I think it's the name of the dragon, right?
Yeah.
Because it builds, the opening credits is like this whole story about the dragon and whatnot. And then you, at the 1/3 mark of the game, you did it. And then like, I know there's another part then to the story, because they even say like, this is where your story is just beginning.
Right. Well, it felt like a sequel. Like at that point, it felt like a sequel to the game. Like when you go into the different areas and and there's all that pink mist and all that was because of that dragon. And once you get rid of that dragon, you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. So it's kind of like as if I don't know, it felt like as if you solved the problem that everybody was having.
You beat Ganon right there, 1/3 part of the game.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you're gonna, I guess you're fighting Dark Ganon, I guess.
Or the Ganon part. You beat Ganondorf, right? And then you're beating Ganon at the last part, I guess.
Yeah,
something like that.
I wanted to ask you about because this kind of frustrated me too, is the way that the wolf runs in the game. I just wish that there was, so the way it is, like you push forward on your stick, and the wolf is like a train. He builds up momentum, or she builds up momentum to get to full speed. And then that was just one thing where I wish there was just a button I could hold down so she could just go at full speed, because I felt like a lot of times by the time I got to full speed, I needed to turn, or she was at the spot or whatever. And it was just, I don't know. What'd you think of that?
That's a very good point. I forgot about that part, because I found you can maybe speed up. Maybe it did. Maybe I just did it and I thought I was doing it, like maybe psychologically, but if you do the lunge forward, like a little bit like that, I felt like it kind of got me going faster. I'm guessing it's the square button, your first attack move, right?
Right.
If you did that, she kind of lunged, but then I think she start going, but not full speed right away. She you get a little bit of when she's running, like flowers and everything bloom up behind her, right? Like when you're at full speed. and it starts it, but then when she's really running, you got like a wave of wind, kind of like that's when you know you're really running fast. I agree with you, yes, because there's times where like I agree that even if I could hold in like on the analog stick, like a way of running, I wish there's a way that would trigger the run faster, kind of thing,
like
right?
just go already.
Just go already, yeah.
Build up.
Yep, I agree with you. That's something that could be fixed up for the sequel. That it would make the game even play more.
Yeah.
I did want to touch back though on a couple of characters. One of which was I thought was just, even though it doesn't say like anything at all, just kind of like size. But I'm guessing it's just the Jabba character from like Ocarina of Time. His name's Jamba. He's like the Sparrow King or the Sparrow clan leader.
Okay.
Where like all his little Sparrow army guys are like, Jamba does not allow anyone to pass unless he finds his daughter, kind of thing. He just like, you see him like, oh, and that's all he did basically, right? I thought that was kind of, I don't know, cute and funny, basically, that everyone just worships this guy who's just significantly bigger than all of them. And I associate it with either like the king that was of the Zoras in Ocarina of Time that like solely skimpers over on the seat that doesn't say too much. Basically, his daughter's missing as well. Same kind of gimmick. But I wanted to mention again, like the sensei Onigiri, because it's funny. He's got that little walking stick, right? And he's got one look, but then he, almost like the owl of Ocarina of Time, rotates his head in the other way when he's going to teach you the mission, and his face changes, right? He does like a 360. He's the one that makes, so there's several references to Beautiful Joe in this game. His pose is exactly Joe's Henshin and Go baby. There's now I discovered this also while filling out the outline for this show, that there's a submission that I didn't find, but there's a little girl that says like, I'm going to teach you like Henshin style or something, and then she says Henshin a go baby. So there's a reference to that in this game. I guess there's one of the bosses is a reference to one of the characters in Beautiful Joe, but also one of the trophies for when you first meet Waka, who's the French guy with the flute, right? He says, was it Let's Rock Baby, right? Which is a reference to Dante from Devil May Cry. But like I said, I like those things. I'm a big fan, I guess, of the Clover / Platinum style kind of things. There was a point in time that with the Cartridge Club would always try to do a Clover / Platinum game once a year, basically, kind of thing. So any like little reference to like that, I guess I'm partial and fond to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I enjoyed those little nods to the other games as well. I just want to mention too, before we move on, the bosses. Some of the bosses in the game were very interesting to look at. Like the Spider Queen was like a legit creepy boss, and that boss fight where you had to hook her abdomen, I guess, in the back to like these pillars, and that was all very well done. I thought that was a really clever way. It wasn't working every time I would try to do it, but the
camera angles can make that a little difficult on that one, basically, right? Because you can't just keep going back to the same exact vine that you're striping it to, right?
You had to move around and try to get the right angle and all that, and it wasn't working every time. And then when she would come, she would eventually hook herself up to the ceiling and then come down on a spider web, and you had to slash the spider web in order for her to fall down. And I don't know how many times I slashed and it didn't work, so I'd have to do the whole thing all over again. But I still thought that was they did find some clever ways to integrate the celestial powers into those boss fights.
No, there was the boss fights were, not every one of them was like the most interesting, but there are some really, really interesting ones that were. Like Ninetales, who essentially was the busty babe, right? He essentially killed her, or she, I don't know if Ninetales what it is, right? But essentially it's like a fox with 9 tails. Right. He took on that form of the busty babe to get near the queen, right? Because there's a part where you find that there's an underground passage that has like essentially a skeleton with the same clothing as the busty babe. And I think Isuno says something like, or Isun says something along the line of like, hey, these clothes look familiar, kind of thing. But you just see a skeleton in the clothes, right? But I also, well, I don't know if you got to it, but there's also like these tool owls that control time that I thought was a really, really creative fight. They're called like Leechku and Nichku or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's essentially they are yeah, they're a multiple boss fight. It's maybe kind of like a Twin Rova situation from like Ocarina of Time that I think were also really, really creative.
Right.
They're like one of the final bosses too in the game. But yeah, like the boss designs are pretty fantastic in this game. You know, like especially when you see like the Japanese drawing of the game.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
did you when you saw this game though too? Let me ask you about the art style. How did you feel it stacked up against like Wind Waker? Because they both have like a cell shaded like art design to them too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought so. I don't. It's good. It all looks good. It all looks great. I enjoyed the look of it. It did feel like an old game blowing up though on the screen. Like a lot of the like I think I've never played it on the PS2. But I think if I looked at it on the PS2, it'd probably look better on the PS2 because I think a lot of the imagery was just kind of expanded, like like taking a I don't know, what can I like taking an old 4:3 image and you put it on your 16:9 screen, right? And it just
Yep.
doesn't look as sharp, and a lot of the the black outline for all the characters I felt was a little too thick, and I think that was just from expanding it.
Sure.
So like
No,
I prefer the Wind Waker style, but cell shading graphics I'm a fan of them. So
I agree with you on that one because it feels like, and I'm going to chalk it up to Capcom being cheap on the port.
yeah.
Because if you buy the Devil May Cry HD trilogy for like PS4 and PS3, they do
Mhm.
the same kind of gimmick with it where the image isn't as clear. Like they just do enough, right? It's
Right.
one of those things where they could have spent time and really cleaned it up. They just did the bare minimum.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a thing, like people get really confused. There is a difference between a remaster, a remake, and a port. And I feel like as if this was like the version of the game I played on the PS3 was a port of the Wii game. Because it basically just took all the same controls from the Wii game and brought it over. And when you port a game, you're not really upping the resolution. You're not like a remake. You're completely remaking it from scratch. You're redoing all the elements. You're going back to like to think back, like you have a baked cake. If you're doing a remake, you're taking the cake and you're breaking it all down to the eggs and the flour and the butter, and you're rebuilding it from scratch, right? A remaster is like, okay, the cake is done, but it doesn't look very good on this big table now, so we're just going to stretch the table out a little bit, or stretch the cake out a little bit so it looks a little better on the table. And that's, you might like improve the visuals and stuff. That's more of a remaster. Whereas this is just a port. They just took the cake, they put it on the table, they stretched it out, and they said, it fits the screen. Good enough. We're
mhm.
done here. Let's move on.
Yeah, it feels just it's probably better. I know it's better, and they did have a filter at least on the PS4 version where if you go to the visual settings where you can kind of clean it up a little bit.
Okay.
But it's still not like it looks better captured. Like I'll say this: I've seen people play like their captured footage and whatnot. It looks
Yeah.
better on TV, but playing in front of my TV, it feels just like there's a little blur. You know what I'm saying? Or it's like a smear or something like that, or it's not crystal clear
When you're
compared to
watching when you're
compared to like
watching
Wind Waker remake, right? For or HD on the
Yeah.
Wii U, right?
When you're looking at that stuff on YouTube actually kind of covers up a lot of it. That's why it looks decent, because YouTube videos are compressed, and within that compression, you lose a lot of the detail and all that. So, like a game like that would look great on YouTube, but then when you go and play it on, especially it depends on where you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching YouTube on your phone, that image is like scaled right down, so it's going to look great. But when you get it home and you blow it up on your big TV, it's going to lose some of that that detail.
Yeah, it's all I'm saying is I think Capcom could have put just a couple more bucks into it.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
I guess what triggered the sequel is that over the years, because I think it sold pretty poorly on the PS2. I think it only sold like 600,000 copies, right?
I think we got to be honest. I think part of that is the timing of its release. It was like you mentioned before. It was one of the final games, final big releases, like not a Just Dance game or a sports
Madden,
title,
yeah,
right?
Madden 2010 or
Right,
something like
exactly.
that.
That kind of they kind of like tend to overlap. This was one of like the last big exclusive games that was released on the PS2 when people's attention had already moved on to the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 because they just got a brand new HD TV and they, a 720p HD TV that you want to take advantage of, and so you moved on to the next console. So I think in part the timing of its release, like it'd be interesting if it did come out in 2004, how well it would have done. I mean, it was basically, when you think about it, if you were making a decision between a PlayStation 2 and a GameCube at the time, Zelda was like one of the factors that would draw you over to the GameCube. Well, this is basically a Zelda game on the PlayStation 2. You don't know if you want a Zelda experience, you could kind of get one on the PS2.
Yeah, it's one of those things where but they've mentioned though since its original release and several re-releases like ports to like PS3, PS4, Xbox, Switch. Since doing so, it sold over 4 million copies because of like word of mouth. In doing so, Capcom wanted to start exploring doing a sequel because it sold well over time. Then maybe with the sequel, it'll do better or something.
It's earned. I'm not going to say it's earned a cult following because of the look of the game, and I think from just word of mouth, people who have played it and enjoyed it and have recommended it, and it's so it's earned a cult following, and it's probably earned enough in sales that they can look at it and do a sequel now. But yeah, at the time, I think it was just that. Like I think IGN gave this game was a 9.5 or a 10 out of 10. I think it was their game of the year in 2006, which is kind of bizarre to me because I mean in 2006 you had Oblivion, you had the first Gears of War. I'm blanking on something else that was really big at the time. But anyways, like to me those games they outperformed this game. But
I forget what outlet praised it as the best game no one played or something like that because of the time of its release. So because of its total sales. So
I wonder how many people or collectors out there had bought it and not played it too. I mean, I bought this thing on the PlayStation 3 back in, I don't know, 2010, 12 maybe or something like that. And it sat there until now, until this month. So
I think someone made a joke in our Discord too that it's the game that's in everyone's backlog that that we all have but we never played basically too. And I was victim of it myself too. So
yeah, I mean I had tried, like you, I had tried to play it in the past, but it's one of those things where something else came out, whatever, and you just want to give it that like if you want to put this game in and just give it that quick, like how does this play, how does this feel, you're not gonna you gotta sit there and
you gotta get to that opening. You gotta get to that opening here. So I know I don't want to drag this any much longer. I think you didn't care for how they talked in the game, did you? Or
I know on Discord there was some back and forth about that. It didn't normally, it doesn't really bother me. It didn't really bother me in this game. It went on so long, I think that it wouldn't matter if they were talking or not. That it's just a style. It's a different style. And other than not knowing how to pronounce the names, it didn't really bother me that much.
Yeah. No, I agree. I did kind of chalk it up to, it's just doing like what Banjo-Kazooie is doing. But again, within doing research for the show, it turns out they actually did have dialect and text, but they didn't like how it sounds, so they sped it up in whatever. So it just all kind of just comes off like how they talk almost in Banjo-Kazooie, which is here. I don't know. One of the guys even sounded like one of the characters from Banjo-Kazooie. So I think it was that Susano guy or something like that. The guy who was going to pull out the sword and whatnot. But yeah. I mean, to me, it didn't bother me. I'm a fan of the Banjo-Kazooie series and whatnot. So, but I know some people didn't care for it. But
and fair enough. I mean, if you don't like that thing, I don't think it's a reason to not give the game a try. But if you can't see past it, then you can't see past it.
Kevin, what are your final thoughts on Okami?
Okay, so my final thoughts are, it's for the most part, it's an okay game. I enjoyed many aspects of it. I enjoyed a lot of it. I think it just kind of overstayed its welcome. I went from, I want to explore everything in this game. I want to find out where all the corners are and find out like what, all the fun stuff, all the fun bits. I want to find all the animals and get my praise. I like doing that, feeding them, finding the different pieces of food that they like, and there is a lot of depth in the game. It's oddly unnecessary because the game isn't that difficult. You don't really need to do all those things. But I guess a Zelda game is kind of the same in a way. But it got to a point for me where I was kind of done. I just felt like the game was kind of repeating itself a little too much. And I got to a point where I'm just going to like stick to the main story. Let's just get to the end already. And I didn't even bother to do that. So yeah, it's okay. It's an okay game. I don't think it deserved the poor reception it got from the mainstream audience, like who kind of ignored it when it came out. But I think it kind of also got overpraised. So I think it's just somewhere in the middle. Like it'd be like a 6.5, maybe a 7 out of 10 if I'm feeling really generous. But I feel like as if I would finish a 7 out of 10 game.
Sure.
So I would give it a 6.5 out of 10.
For my final thoughts, I really, really enjoyed the game. There's so many else, like maybe I got just over the time in playing it, because I agree it does have a very slow start. I felt uncomfortable even playing so much at first. Not so much like what are these whack controls, is more along the line of like, I don't know about the celestial brush thing. This thing is really kind of bothering me. Here's an example we haven't even talked about yet, like the paintings, the celestials in the sky when you unlock an ability, right?
Yes, yeah.
So
yeah.
It took me like 15. Another example of a game taking and not telling you, just discovering it 15 hours, 20 hours in the game. You can just tap the stars and then the points on the end of the leg. So you'll see like an example is what is that, like the Milky Way in the sky, right? The stars, how they line up, right?
Your
constellations, right? So you see a constellation in the sky for this ability that you're gonna log. It's an animal, right? It'll give you a couple stars. Here I am the first time doing it. I'm trying to draw the whole thing, and I'm like getting so frustrated, right? Turns out you just gotta tap the stars, and then it'll point out the other points that you might have to tap on. And that's it. It's really simple. But maybe because I have the PS4 version and I'm not reading a digital manual,
right?
I didn't know. So I got to that point in the game where I'm like, God, this part is incredibly frustrating. Once you discover like kind of that stuff, a lot of the drawing stuff isn't as bad as you think it is. I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the story. I look forward to the sequel. I probably will purchase the sequel on day one because I'm a fan of Hideki Kamiya, right? Or Kamiya. If I should say his name correctly, if I'm a fan. But I really, really enjoyed the game. I would like to see another take on this, what he can do, more things he's learned over life. I would still like to see probably a little bit more of what he can do for an action game. Like, I mean, I've played the Bayonetta games. I've played your Devil May Cry. I would like to see a little bit more of that incorporated. How you do that with a wolf, I don't know. I hope he reunites with Isun in the game, because I think Isun is I hope we don't get just like another fairy. I think his little bit of humor in the game kind of brightens it up even a little bit more. So I hope there's some kind of reunition, because how the game ends, Kevin, they're parted and they go on their own ways. So I hope there's some kind of reconnection with the sequel. But I'm all for the sequel. I really, really enjoyed this game. If I was to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
And I was debating, do I like this more than Twilight Princess? And the thing between it is, like, there's parts of both I like more than the other. So I would say they're almost on par. The story, I think I like a Twilight Princess a little bit more, but I ultimately really, really like this game. And I look forward to the sequel. So I would recommend it if you're a fan of Zelda games, if you're looking for something different from a Zelda game that isn't a Zelda game, right? It's significantly better than Skyward Sword. So I always dunk on that when I can. So
I would play Skyward Sword over this game.
Let me
again.
dump that shit. That's just garbage. Anyways, I'd like to reiterate, May's game of the month will be Star Wars The Force Unleashed. If you're playing along or just want to discuss the game with us, make sure to let us know by using the hashtag Cartridge Club on whatever social media platform you frequent. For those of you who want to get a head start in June's game of the month, we'll be playing Killer Instinct. Lunar is July's game of the month. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, please reach out to us. We're always looking forward to having new community members on to talk about the games they love. To those of you interested in supporting the Cartridge Club beyond a review on the podcast app of your choice, I'd like to mention that the club is entirely funded by pledges made from members of our community. We're extremely grateful to the supporters, and if you're interested in becoming one of them, please look how you can do so at patreon.com/Cartridge Club. Well, with that being said, Kevin, where can we find you online?
I don't know anymore. Where can you find me? I got my podcast, Retro Fandango. We just did an episode about Faulty Towers. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, so just type that into a search engine.
And bringing streaming back?
Well, I was trying to, and then I got roped into helping a friend with another podcast called the Mind Melt Podcast, and I kind of sidetracked that. And then I started making these drone videos, and I got myself a drone, and I just threw up some video of my town was hit by a flood. So I just kind of did some footage of that, and then I did some other footage of some of the snow melt and falls near me. And those videos kind of taken off. So I've been trying to get back out there and do that. So yeah, I don't know if you want to see some drone videos of Northern Ontario. I know there's so many video gamers out there that are just itching to see some natural beauty shots of the beautiful Northern Ontario. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I don't know. Check it out if you feel like it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. Anyways, for myself, you can find me on Twitter, Blue Skies, Instagram, and the Cartridge Club Discord, where we talk about the games that we are playing.
Yeah.
But that being said, that's the show, everyone. CC Unite.
CC Unite.
so